I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. My much anticipated 2018 market outlook for Vancouver real estate. Every year at this time I do one in the new year. I always put my caveat out there, like I have been doing for 8 years, is that I do not have a special magic crystal ball. The predictions I'm going to make here are just that. They're predictions. I have really no idea, as I've been blogging about for 8 years here, about what the Vancouver real estate market is going to do in 2018, just like I didn't in 2017. I thought that if you go back to my blog I did at this time last year, I thought the market was going to stay pretty strong in Vancouver. I was a little worried about the foreign buyers tax, but I did not foresee the condo market going stratospheric like it has. Probably up on average 25 to 30% in the last 12 or 13 months. The detached market, as expected, has gotten a bit soft. Real estate board says it's still in a balanced market. I think for the most part it is favoring buyers right now, although I'll talk a little bit about that here at the end of the video. So what do I see for 2018? Well, here's a few things. First off, I think everyone should understand that if you travel a lot like I do, I go to Southern California a lot, 2 or 3 times a year. I've got family there. I just got back from 2 weeks in Southern California. I've got family in Newport Beach. I also spend a lot of time in Venice, California. I go to New York a couple times a year. So I travel a fair bit. Miami, Chicago. I'm always taking small mini vacations and travel pretty extensively. What I foresee, and which I talk a lot about in my book, is that desirable cities, especially along the West Coast, will continue to be extremely desirable. Not just for locals, but for people from the East Coast, from people from Europe, from China, from South America, you name it. As far as I can see right now and have seen for a while, the North American market is tilted to the West Coast. This is where people want to live. And if you travel at all to places, even just go 2 hours south to Seattle, go 5-hour drive down to Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, Vancouver, of course. From Vancouver to San Diego, they're all experiencing this exact same thing we are here. More buyers than there are sellers, and real estate prices going through the roof. I talk about it again in my book a lot. I do not see that diminishing anytime over the next 15, 20, or 30 years. Yes, there will always be windows there due to things like inflation, interest rate hikes, unreeling taxes that the local governments might put on the buyers. Look at them as buying opportunities, in my opinion. But overall, the desirability, the popularity, and the overall price appreciation for cities from Vancouver down to San Diego will only continue. You can pretty much transplant this Vancouver market. A lot of people think that Vancouver is an anomaly and we're dealing with things here that nobody else is. The sky-high condo prices, wages not keeping pace with what home prices are. Go down to Southern California. Their market is exactly like ours, maybe worse in a lot of ways. As a matter of fact, a lot of Southern California makes Vancouver's prices look pretty reasonable. Same thing can be said for Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, of course. San Diego's prices are up massively over the last couple of years. This is, the West is the best. People have discovered it for what it is: the lifestyle, the mild and warm winters, the mild winters, the nice summers, low humidity. I only see that increasing over the next couple of decades. Stress test on mortgages. So that's all in the news, although I can tell you, and I blogged about it before, the big banks were already doing these stress tests back in November. I was privy to it because I had several deals that collapsed because of financing. I was the listing realtor. Buying agent told me that the buyers were well qualified. They were putting 20% down and they weren't able to get the financing. So it is going to affect some buyers, but it's already been in place for a couple of months. It's not like anything has changed now that we're into January. But I do not think it's going to have as big of an impact as I've seen some of the pundits say. Some people are thinking it's going to cause the market to go down 20-30% because it affects your purchasing power by the same amount. It's not. There's also other ways that people can get around the stress test. They can go to some second or third tier lenders. That's been going on for years and years because they were stress testing high ratio stuff for a long time now. And what would often happen is to get their foot in the door, if they couldn't get it through a big bank, they would go to a secondary lender. They wouldn't be getting the same good low rate. They'd be paying sometimes 3/4 or a full percent more on the mortgage, but at least it got them in the door. They were able to purchase the property, and then over the next couple of years, they could save up a bit more money. When the mortgage renewed at the third tier lender, they could then try again at a big bank like Royal or TD. So there's ways to get around it. Luxury pre-sales, as you know, I've said, I've acknowledged that I think people should stay away from Vancouver pre-sales until further notice. I just don't see a lot of value in them. I think they are based on the fact that you're not going to move into them for 3 years. You're buying them off a brochure, 5% GST on top of it. I think there's far better value in the resale or the tangible market. Stay tuned. I'll let you know if pre-sales get attractive again. But I think for 2018, I don't see it happening. I've already seen some of the pre-sale pricing that's going to be coming out later this spring and summer. Most of it is all luxury stuff, I can tell you. It's not cheap. We're starting at $1,500-1,600 a square foot and well over $2,000 a square foot. So it's pretty much all going to be luxury units coming into the downtown core here for the next couple of years for sure. We'll see what happens later on. Detached market, let's go back to that. 2 months ago, I did a blog on the detached market being on sale. As expected now that we're into January, I had a couple of good East Vancouver detached homes, starter homes, priced under 1.4. I can tell you that my phone started ringing right after I got back from Christmas vacation. Both homes have now been sold. One I got multiple offers on. The other one I pretty much received full ask on a subject-free cash offer. This does not surprise me. I was saying several months ago that it's on sale. I see some of these, what I would call the savvy, experienced buyers circling like vultures on some of these homes. They were off $200,000 or $250,000 from what they were selling for 18 months ago. And a lot of them now are starting to step in and buy some of these starter homes. And here's the thing I want to make sure people understand too. If you go back to the blogs I was doing, again, in late 2012, 2013, that was the last time we had a correction in the detached market. Prices were off about 10%. I did some blogs in there that were picked up by the national media and got 20, 30,000 views, where I was saying at the time the market was down 10%, but all my buyers had one thing in common. They were all successful. They were all experienced real estate buyers. They were buying when the prices were falling and they were off 200 or 300,000 on a detached home. I did a blog saying these guys all have something in common. They've all bought real estate for a long time, or owned real estate. The other thing is they could care less if they didn't time the bottom. And I took a lot of heat from a lot of critics saying this is a typical realtor telling people to buy. Prices are off 200 grand, but this is just the beginning. The market's going to crash, don't you know? And of course, 6 months later, prices took off, and some of these homes that I sold back in 2013, these people are up over $1 million on these homes. Paid 1.3, they're worth 2-3 now. So these people, they pull the trigger knowing full well that if they paid 1.3 million today for a house in East Vancouver, next year that house might be only worth 1.2. But they don't care, because the last one I just sold, this was an East Vancouver house. They're going to renovate it, fix it up, either put a tenant in there or live in there themselves. If it goes down $100,000 at this time next year, what do they care? What they will do is they will look at it 10 years from now. They look at it from long-term intervals. The short term is irrelevant to them. And I can tell you in 10 years, I don't know what it's going to do next year or the year after that. It might be down 100 or 150,000. But in 10 years from now, that 1.4 they paid will be worth far more. And some of the other blogs I've done, good things happen to you when you're in the market. Rezoning, townhouse developments, multifamily, there's all land assemblies, there's all kinds of great things that can happen to you when you own a detached house and you're in the market for a while. So we'll see where the detached market goes. The luxury market, though, for 2018 is going to be interesting. Right now, it is soft. And I just took a house off, a luxury home priced at around $3.5 million. We took it off the market just before Christmas, was not getting a whole lot of action on it. It's an incredible house that I probably would have had multiple offers on 18 months ago. But we will see where it goes. Depending on what the market does for the starter homes going forward this spring, maybe we'll roll it back out. But the other thing too that I see for luxury homes is there's not a lot of desperation out there. If they can't get the price they want, they take it off the market, just like what my sellers did. When the market recovers, and it eventually will, then we'll put it back out. So right now I don't see very little desperation out there or urgency from some of these luxury homes. The market is soft for sure, but I'm seeing homes that are on the market for 80, 90, 100, 150 days. If they can't get an offer on it, they just take it off the market and they'll relist it later on. So we'll see where that goes. Final thing I will say is, you know, there is still a lot of people out there, of course, that are frustrated with the market here. And I know where they're at. I get emails and comments on my YouTube blog saying the Vancouver market's overpriced and it's due for a major correction or a crash. People should realize one thing here, that, and I don't want to sound blunt with this, but you know, if you can't afford a home and can't get into the market right now, it doesn't mean that you know, everybody else is in the same boat. I'm selling properties to young people, first-time buyers that aren't having help from mom and dad every single month. I probably in 2017 worked with at least 15 or 20 buyers that were under the age of 35, first-time buyers. I also witnessed it on the selling side, that I had many first-time buyers, young people buying condos, townhomes, that made it work. They buckled down, they saved their money, they got the money for the down payment, and they got on the market. So it's not going to be easy. You have to make some sacrifices to get into the Vancouver market for sure, but it can be done. I see it every day. And you have to realize that. Some people just think, you know, the world is conspiring against them and the Vancouver market is hopeless and forget it and we're all in the same boat. And unfortunately, we're not. It's you. Now, I don't want to be blunt, but you can, you know, there are ways to get into the market. You have to, the tough part is really just to get the down payment together. Once you can get that down payment together and buy your first condo, your holding costs aren't going to be much more than what it's costing you to rent. So that's the big hurdle, and I'll be doing lots more blogs later this spring and summer, like I always do, on getting your foot in the door. So we'll see what 2018 brings. As always, it's not going to be boring, that's for sure. There's going to be lots of things that are going to happen this year, just like last year and the year before. There's never a dull moment in Vancouver real estate. The NDP government in February are going to announce a new housing strategy. We'll see what that brings. Maybe some more taxes, maybe some more restrictions. Maybe we'll have some more mortgage tightening. You know, as far as the mortgage tightening goes, I blogged about that before. The only one that's hurting is really the first-time buyer. It's actually kind of doing the opposite of what it should be doing. People are holding much tighter to their properties because they're afraid that if they sell, they can't get back into the market with the new qualification rules. So it's actually squeezing the supply even more. And that will be the big story moving forward in 2018. It's all about supply and demand. And supply continues to be extremely low. There's 3 or 4 buyers for every condo out there. We would need to see the supply increase before we start to get some relief on prices. And, you know, it's the exact same thing, just off topic here, the exact same thing is playing out in the U.S. stock market right now. If you're a stock investor like I am, you'll know the S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ are all setting record prices every single day. We are into uncharted territory. This is probably the craziest bull market we have ever experienced in the United States. But I read an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal over the holidays, and I also saw some stories on this in Bloomberg and on CNBC. And it talked about how there are not enough shares of good companies, companies like Apple, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Facebook, Netflix, you name it, 3M, Boeing, Dow. There are not enough shares to satisfy the demand for the buyers of these good companies, because what's happening is since 2009, These big Fortune 500 companies got lean and mean. They laid off workers, they cut costs. Now that the economy is booming again, the profits are through the roof. What they're also doing is they are also buying back a tremendous amount of their shares. You can go onto Yahoo Finance and dig a little deeper into this, but the share count for many of these big companies that I just named is continuing to go down. And when the number of shares outstanding decrease, it of course boosts your revenue numbers and your price to earnings numbers as well. And now when you've got demand, trillions and trillions of dollars in retirement funds that want to get put to work in these companies, and you've got less and less stock that's available for purchase, you get the unprecedented bull run we have right now in the stock market. When it'll end, who knows? It will one day. But it's a phenomenon that has never been seen before. And it's a little bit like that in Vancouver real estate. I've done lots of blogs on it. It is all about supply and demand. And the demand to live in Vancouver, in downtown Vancouver, is ultra high. The supply is limited. And that has been the story for the last 3 years. Eventually it'll change. Something will happen, a catalyst, another mortgage, some more mortgage rate hikes, some more restrictions on foreign buyers. Who knows? But or more inventory might eventually start to come online here. But for right now and moving into 2018, nothing's changed yet. Inventory is low, interest in buyers is high. You get the market that we're in currently. But I'll do more updates on this as we move into 2018. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, I'll see you next time.